A woman vanishes without a trace on a cross-country train. The catch? Nobody on board remembers her ever existing in the first place. Nobody except for you. Detective's Instinct Farewell My Beloved is a mystery adventure game about two college students who should be writing their term papers, but instead procrastinate by diving headfirst into an international political conspiracy, one involving blackmail, espionage, human trafficking, murder, and a pair of eccentric, mildly sociopathic golfers. I've had this game on my radar for over 2 years, long before it ever launched. I fell in love with the art direction and the concept the moment I saw its development account on social media. I've been a huge Ace Attorney fan since middle school. I fell in love with Godot at first sight, and I played the games wildly out of order because of it, YOLO. And the whole detective murder mystery genre is basically my forever bias. So after finishing Detective's Instinct, I can confidently say that if you also like any of that, you'll probably have a really great time here too. It has a super compelling story, a charming and lighthearted narrative style, and an incredible soundtrack that does a ton for the game's overall mood. That being said, the game didn't quite live up to my expectations. But is that really such a bad thing? Hello, I'm Amber. I make cartoons for a living, games for fun, and these little video essays on the side where I talk about anime, retro and indie games, and hyper-specific corners of old internet culture. If any of that sounds like something that you're into, feel free to hit that subscribe button down below, but for now, let's just jump right into it. Detective Instinct's art direction is single-handedly the reason this game sat on my Steam wishlist for years, and frankly, it absolutely delivers. The character sprites are charming, expressive, and honestly just really fun to look at, with clear inspiration taken from games like Ace Attorney and 999, and maybe with a little City Hunter energy sneaking in too. The character designs are super stylish without going into the full anime-isms of its predecessors, and don't get me wrong, as much as I love orange-skinned Yakuza members, belly dancers, or literal circus clowns, the more grounded character designs of Detective's Instinct really helped sell the story and the world in a way that I appreciated a lot. The sketchy, stylized cutscene art that pops up throughout the story instantly reminded me of Hotel Dusk. They're very moody and very deliberately used to serious up the tone when the story needs it. One thing that I really love is this game's mix of 3D assets, pixel art, and hand-drawn artwork. That combo just screams Nintendo 3DS to me. Like these train backgrounds with this super linear parallaxing PNG of trees going against a static 3D model of a train. I don't know, just something about this is very nostalgic to me. Every time I opened the game, it reminded me of being a teen playing Ace Attorney for hours on my DS emulators. I just love it. I love it. The developer has regularly cited Ace Attorney and Hotel Dusk as major visual inspirations, so yeah, I definitely say mission accomplished. But they've also mentioned Famicom Detective Club as another art style inspiration, which I haven't played yet myself, but based on how much I like Detective's Instinct, I probably should. Comparing them side by side, I think you can definitely see Famicom Detective Club's influence the most on Detective Instinct's UI layout and navigational menus. All in all, this game is total eye candy. It's a passionate love letter to retro anime-style mystery game aesthetics. And with the visuals already setting the bar sky high, the soundtrack absolutely blasts it into outer space, which honestly helps cover for some of the spots where the game doesn't deliver quite as strongly. Detective Instinct's orchestral soundtrack really elevated my immersion into the game's world. The flutes, the pianos, the strings, they all waltz you through the story's peaks and valleys in a way that I can only describe as cinematic. The game developers actually hired real musicians to record the soundtrack, not VSTs, but actual instruments played by real people. For the very first game made by such a small indie studio, that's super impressive. With a whopping 31 original tracks, it all blends seamlessly into exactly what's going on in the story at the time, making the music feel like the heartbeat that's pushing the entire experience along. From tense pieces that make me feel like I'm sitting at a highly contested will reading, to smooth, smoking a cigarette at sunset style guitar tracks, to funky Mario Golf style romps when the story's resident bromance gets on their bullshit again. The soundtrack consistently nails the mood for every emotional beat in the story. Joey Lopez, the game's director and original concept creator, seems to be a professional musician with a long history of combining his love for music with his love for video games. He started posting his original music on YouTube all the way back in 2016, first with a song he composed and played with his university band. Then he moved on to making really good covers of video game songs, and even video essays covering interesting topics at the intersection of where video games and music theory collide. From what I can tell, Detective's Instinct first started as Joey's personal project. During the pandemic, he shared this idea with two buddies of his, and they were all able to align on a vision that they were passionate about due to their shared love of the mystery game genre. From there, after years of hard work, the game blossomed into what it is today. I gotta say, stories like this make me feel like indie games are pure magic, and it's hands down my favorite thing about them as an art medium. If you have a good idea and enough patience, willingness to learn, and drive to see it through, anyone can make a game, no matter who you are, from any background, at any age, from any walk of life. Anyone can make a game. As I've said plenty of times on this channel already, I've been developing an indie game too, and while I am a professional artist, my art career didn't prep me to make music, to program, to make UI assets, or any of the other crazy stuff my game development journey has required me to learn. But I'm doing it no matter what obstacles are thrown in front of me. And honestly, learning about Detective Instinct's scrappy origin story makes me feel so inspired that I just want to drop everything and dive straight back into my own project right now. Like, right now. But I have to finish my freaking YouTube video. I'm messing around. I like making these, y'all. It's fine. But yeah, Detective Instinct's soundtrack is absolutely stellar, and the mood that seeps from it is tangible. And that mood is doing a lot of heavy lifting for the game's overall experience. Unfortunately, usually more than the gameplay itself. So this is where I start getting a little more critical of the game, and before I do, I want to be super clear. I had a really good time with Detective's Instinct, and I absolutely view it positively overall. That being said, there were a few things that stood out to me as not working quite as well as the rest of the otherwise phenomenal experience. What did work well for me story-wise was the game's overall premise and tone. The writing is lighthearted and cheeky, full of little quips and bits of humor, even though the core plot revolves around murder, blackmail, and political conspiracy. For the relatively short amount of time that we spend with this zany cast of characters, I found them all surprisingly well fleshed out and genuinely likable. No one felt shallow or underdeveloped, which I think is an awesome feat for a game of this length. I was also really into the political drama layer of the narrative. That wasn't something I really expected going into it based on the game's marketing that I had seen, but it definitely added a level of nuance that elevated the story's conflicts beyond a straightforward whodunit style mystery, which apparently was exactly what the developers were going for, so hey, gold star there. Where the story and gameplay started to fumble for me, though, was in the pacing. From start to finish, Detective's Instinct is only about 6 hours long, and with that limited runtime in mind, it has a tendency to repeat itself fairly often. The most noticeable example of this is with the end of the chapter investigation review quizzes. While I kinda get what the developer was going for with these, they usually felt less like meaningful plot progression to me and more like padding for time. It kind of reminds me of like that classic anime critique of flashbacks to things that happened in the very same episode. Like, do I really need to review information that I just got 30 minutes ago? In a longer game like Ace Attorney or Umineko, I actually think a feature like this could be really useful. But here, I felt like it just created a noticeable slowdown. It kind of made me feel like the game didn't trust me to follow the story on my own. And it's not like the story was particularly complex in the first place. This ties into my second gripe, if you can even call it that, which is that I did find the story somewhat predictable. I do want to stress though that that's probably a me thing. I'm super familiar with most of the works that Detective's Instinct cites as inspirations, and even directly references in the game itself. And I've probably overconsumed the mystery and detective genre to an unhealthy degree. Because of that, I was pretty easily able to guess certain parts of the mystery early on, like within the first 2 chapters early. Despite that predictability, I was still pleasantly surprised by a lot of moments throughout the story. I never felt bored or checked out at any point. If anything, I'd say the experience felt cozy. Honestly, now I feel like calling it predictable is a little unfair. To me, playing Detective's Instinct felt like sinking into a warm bubble bath, lighting my favorite candle, and popping on an old show that I love with a glass of wine in my hand. The story felt familiar and comfy, and to me that's more of a strength than a weakness. As for the gameplay itself, I did find it to be more of a press the right button at the right time simulator, which sometimes made progression feel a little arbitrary. When I first started the game, I definitely was expecting something closer to Ace Attorney's style of gameplay, and that mismatch left me feeling a little bit underwhelmed. But once I let go of what I thought the game was supposed to be and started engaging with what it actually was, of its own merit as a standalone idea, I really didn't mind the simple game mechanics as much as I thought I would. In terms of puzzles, there really aren't any. at all. There's essentially only one actual puzzle towards the climax of the game, and I'll be honest, it felt pretty darn arbitrary. I ended up needing to use a Steam forum thread to find the answer, which pulled me out of the experience a bit, right at the point where some of the biggest questions of the mystery were about to be answered. I personally think that if puzzles were going to be included in this game at all, they should have appeared more than once, so the game had the chance to teach players how it wanted them to think. With nothing before it to set the precedent, the game's singular puzzle didn't really feel like a satisfying challenge to round off the narrative climax. It felt more like hitting a speed bump at full speed. But honestly, if the game was just a little longer, I don't think I'd be saying most of this. The game's short runtime basically amplifies all of my issues with it. In a longer game, the investigation review quizzes wouldn't feel so out of place. In a longer game, there'd be more room for puzzles, introduced more gradually. And in a longer game, there probably would have been more opportunities to experiment with moments of player interactivity, which I would have really liked to see, since the interactive moments that did exist were genuinely fun and refreshing breaks from the norms of the game. Yes, I did play the golf aptitude test 6 times in a row until I got the perfect stroke achievement. What of it? All gripes aside, I really did enjoy Detective's Instinct, and when I step back and I look at the big picture, I realize that every single criticism that I have comes from the same place. Not from a place of disappointment or hatred of the game, but rather a deep desire for more of it. I want more content, more time, more chances to play around in this game's style and world to see what this scrappy little indie game studio has up their sleeve next. And frankly, out of all of the problems a game can have, I think it leaving me wanting more is the best case scenario. So here are the real questions. Who's this game for? Will you like this game? Is this game worth it? If you ask me, yes, it's totally worth it. Seriously, go buy it now. Support indie devs, come on. You'll probably really like this game if you're any kind of mystery genre fan, whether it's in the style of Ace Attorney or Agatha Christie. You'll like this game if you're looking for a cozy, comfortable experience. Something you can snuggle up with on the couch under a warm blanket, drinking a hot cup of tea on a rainy day. You'll like it if you're in the mood for a slow-paced, low-stakes story focused more on the characters' emotions and relationships with each other, rather than crazy plot twists and brutal displays of guts and gore. And you probably won't like it if crazy plot twists and blood and guts and gore is what you're after in a murder mystery story. I kind of think this game is like the cozy game of the mystery detective genre, and like I said before, I think that's a strength, not a weakness. But if that's not what you're looking for, it's not what you're looking for, and that's okay, you know? For me, I'm really happy with the experience I got out of Detective's Instinct. It was a lot of fun to go through, and it left me feeling super inspired. The only thing I'm a little bummed about is that, according to the interviews I've read, it doesn't look like the developers intend to make a sequel. Looks like it's one and done, unfortunately, but they left us with the promise that Detective's Instinct is just the first of many games they intend to make. So with that in mind, I can't help but to be super excited for what Joey Lopez and his team at Armonica will cook up for us next. So again, go, buy it, play it, tell the world about it. You gotta speak with your dollar, folks, because then we'll get more cool shit like this instead of shitty Fortnite clones and Gacha slop. Unless you're into shitty Fortnite clones, I guess, you know, Bean Soup Theory and all that. You can go spend your dollars on that, I guess. I don't know, I'm not your mom.